From the Steampunk Explorer newsroom, a world of hair-raising adventures, splendiferous personalities, fantabulous creations. Welcome to the world of Steampunk.
Welcome to episode 2 of The World of Steampunk. I'm Stephen Beal, editor and publisher of the Steampunk Explorer, and I'll be your host. We have another great show lined up for you. We'll be visiting the studio of steampunk reimagineer Bruce Rosenbaum, best known for the Steampunk House and now the Steampunk Church in Massachusetts. We'll be spending a Steampunk Minute with cosplayer extraordinaire Dude Vader. And we'll be serenaded by the Ragged Blade Band as they performed at the Big River Steampunk Festival in Hannibal, Missouri. But first, the news. We lead off with that very same Big River Steampunk Festival, which took place over Labor Day weekend in downtown Hannibal. The festival is one of the largest steampunk gatherings in the U.S., and this year it featured the return of TV personality Doc Phineas. Visitors were also treated to a parade, costume contests, and lots of entertainment. We'll be showing you more scenes from the festival later in the show. The Big River event came on the heels of the Asylum Steampunk Festival, which was held over the August bank holiday weekend in Lincoln, UK. The festival featured performances by a who's who of steampunk musical acts, including a concert with Abney Park and Victor and the Bully. But as always, many folks came just to see steampunks in their costume splendor. Most of the festivities this year took place in and around Lincoln Castle. The Gaslight Steampunk Expo, one of the largest steampunk conventions on the West Coast, is happening this weekend in San Diego with a Haunted Holidays theme. This year's guests of honor are Joe Benitez, creator of the Lady Mechanica comic book series, and his longtime collaborator, Marcia Chen. Later in the show, you'll be hearing more about the convention from our special guest, Dude Vader. Here's a look at other steampunk events that are happening over the next month. As always, check out the Steampunk Explorer website for a complete listing. We may soon be seeing the end of an era for steampunk fans in the San Francisco area. Distractions, billed as Haight Street's original eclectic emporium, is up for sale as owner Jim Siegel is planning to retire after more than 40 years in business. The store offers a large selection of steampunk apparel and accessories. It's also a favorite destination for Burning Man participants. His asking price is $300,000. If Siegel can't find a buyer, he plans to keep the store open for the next year or so, and then he'll have a going-out-of-business sale. The convention previously known as Silicon Valley Comic-Con has taken a savage turn. But it's all good because we're talking about Adam Savage, the TV personality and special effects artist. He's the new creative director of the convention, which is now known as Silicon with Adam Savage. The convention took place in August at the San Jose Convention Center, and Savage made his presence known by placing a huge makerspace on the show floor. But it also had standard Comic-Con programming like celebrity guests and an artist alley, not to mention a few well-known science fiction writers.
My name is David Gerald, and I wrote The Martian Child, which is a almost completely true story about my little boy who thought he was a Martian for a while. And me being a science fiction writer, I thought maybe he really is a Martian. Turns out he's just as badly human as I am.
Gerald is probably best known for writing the classic Star Trek episode The Trouble with Tribbles, so of course he also had Tribbles for sale. We also spoke with Gary Whitta, a screenwriter and author whose credits include the screenplay for The Book of Eli.
I'm a big fan of Silicon. I was coming here back when it was Silicon Valley Comic-Con, I live in the Bay Area, so this is kind of my closest local convention. I work from home, don't get out much, so it's nice to have the opportunity to come out and meet people that are enjoying my work and talk to them. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it every year.
Hi, I'm Bruce Rosenbaum. I call myself a steampunk reimagineer, and I am owner of ModVic, Steampunk Art and Design, and the Steampunk House. In the year 2000, we bought a beautiful Victorian craftsman home in Sharon, Massachusetts. And as we were kind of just decorating, I wanted to bring in antiques and architectural salvage around the same year that the house was built, which was in 1901. When we started to bring in antiques, I was kind of bored, like seeing this thing from the past sitting in a corner, almost like a museum. So I said, well, wouldn't it be cool if I took the boring looking technology that I already had in the house, our computer workstation, home theater, the kitchen appliances, and then take that and integrate it into these beautiful objects that were made with pride and craftsmanship, with really incredible materials of brass and bronze. And as I was doing that, people started to come through my house and say, "Hey, Bruce, you're steampunking." I went, "Steam what?" I had no idea what that was. It sounds, weird and wonderful. And as I started to kind of do my research, I went on the internet and I really found my passions. So in 2017, my wife Melanie and we decided that we wanted to find another space to do adaptive reuse. We found an 1876 Gothic church. So we bought this house in 2017. It took us about 4 months or so to get rid of all the asbestos and do that abatement. And then we moved in August of 2017. The cathedral space, which is the wow, awesome, incredible space, is about 5,000 square feet, 30-foot ceilings. There's at least a dozen 10-foot high stained glass windows. And that has become kind of our museum / showroom space where I have on display my Hue machines, which are these iconic functional sculptures of visionaries, artists, authors, inventors from the Victorian period, where they come alive as the machines that they either wrote about or created. And so this space has become where we live and where I work and where I create. So a lot of my projects, they're functional projects, so they move, they can light up, they can have sound, whatever it is. They can be very complicated and big. I can't do this myself. I work with woodworkers, metal workers, electronics people, mechanical engineers, lighting people, digital people, software application people. It all depends on the project. So one of my favorite projects was for the Hotel Marlowe in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They came to me and they basically had this like boring circular courtyard. I said, well, wouldn't it be cool to do this really supersized large armillary? An armillary is a representation of our solar system. They name this sculpture Celeste or Celestial. And if you go to their website, you'll see Celeste all over. They use this kind of as a branding tool because they say, come meet Celeste. I have a lot of people asking me, why did I choose steampunk? Well, actually, kind of steampunk chose me in a way. I had always loved antiques, history, design, architecture. There was like no word for it. And when I found steampunk and I saw that it was this fusion of history, art, and technology, it just kind of hit me on all sides. And in some ways, my whole life has been about adaptation. I've had a lot of adversity in my life, as many people have. And I've been able to, in some ways, meet this adversity and be able to adapt and kind of be resilient. And I see steampunk as this way of helping people to build resilience. The way that steampunkers think, it is this idea of looking at an object and saying, okay, I understand what that did. You know, time has passed it by, technology has passed it by. It doesn't really have a functional use anymore, but we can creatively use our minds in our hands to come up with a creative way to give it new life, new purpose, new meaning. And so the very act of thinking that way and then creating, changing it is the perfect metaphor for our own lives. When we feel like we're obsolete or time has passed us by, we're not happy in our jobs or relationship, we can change, we can adapt.
We're speaking with Dude Vader, one of the most recognizable cosplayers in Southern California. You might know him for his appearances at steampunk gatherings, but you can also see him at Comic Cons, charity events, and lots of other places. He looks like a steampunk version of Darth Vader, but his backstory is actually much more interesting. Welcome to a Steampunk Minute.
It's a pleasure being here. It's nice to take a break, get out of the Death Star for a little while, stretch my legs, and enjoy the day.
Great. So, right off the top, please tell us, how did you become Dude Vader?
Well, back in 2014, I was a motion picture television set photographer, and my friends that were into steampunk said, why don't you step on the other side of the camera to see what it feels like, and it might help improve your photography. And so I thought, okay, well, what's coming up in the future? Well, Star Wars is going to reconnect with the fan base and make a whole new series of movies. So why not just paint a kid's Darth Vader helmet gold, wear a Hawaiian shirt, and let me think, I'll call myself Dude Vader.
That's quite a story. Now, you not only appear at conventions, you also do a lot of charity events. What's that like?
Well, it's so much different than the conventions because the charities are something that it happens every single weekend. We need cosplayers for all the charity events. Maybe a half a dozen Comic Cons I can go to during the year. I actually do more than 100 charity events every year.
That's a lot of events. I imagine it must be very rewarding to you.
It really fills your heart. When you're at a charity event. This last weekend, I was at the Navy Center, and this kid, after he took photos with me and everything, he looked up to Mom and he says, "Mom, is it okay if I hug Dude Vader?" One of the reasons I enjoy wearing a helmet is they don't see the tear of joy in my life when something like that happens.
Wow, okay. Now, Star Wars is produced by Lucasfilm, which is now owned by Disney. How do they feel about what you do?
Well, about 3 months into being Dude Vader, I'd done a few charities, and I got a letter from Lucas Legal Services. And I thought, oh God, it's going to be a cease and desist order. I opened up the envelope, and I framed the letter on my wall now because it says, "We really love what you're doing. Sometimes the Vader is a little too intense for hospital visits. So let's do this. Let's co-copyright and trademark the character with you, and we will help promote you and put you out there as somebody that we really encourage people to come and visit.
That must have been a relief. Now, Anthony Daniels is the guy who plays C-3PO, and I understand that he gave you some advice about your character. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, on the red carpet of Rogue One, I'm sitting there, looking out, and all of a sudden this guy comes waddling over to me, this British guy, and it turns out it's Anthony Daniels. And he leans into me and he says, you may think you're a Golden Vader, but actually you're sort of like a very confused C-3PO. And so I leaned over and he signed my helmet. And then from then on, every time I see him at a convention or at a movie premiere, we sort of C-3PO waddle up to each other and act like two robots that haven't seen each other for millennia.
Wow, I'd really like to see that. Now, obviously, you're really accomplished at this. So, what's your advice to other cosplayers who want to create their own characters?
Okay, the thing to keep in mind is it's cosplay. I know that making the costume for a lot of people is the most critical factor, but remember that when you step out into the arena of either a convention or a charity, learn how to get into the character. Become that character. Because for a kid who sees you as a stormtrooper or Spider-Man, they want to see the movement as though you are that character. So it's a lot of fun. Once you get your whole outfit designed, stand in front of a big mirror, put on the theme music for the movie, and then take on the personality. I'm even learning how to slide step dance as though C-3PO turns into a slide stepper.
Well, that's something else I'd like to see. Now, I first became aware of you from your appearances at steampunk events. What is it that you like about steampunk?
Well, first of all, steampunk was my door opening into this whole world of cosplay, so I've really got to thank them for that. The best cosplay for me is the humor of mashup. And for steampunk, everything is mashup. You can go to the hardware store, you can go to the secondhand store, you can go to a local theater's rummage sale, and you buy items and you bring them back to your studio and you start putting things together and letting your imagination blossom. Because the number one rule of steampunk is there's no wrong way to do steampunk.
And then just to wrap up, where will you be appearing in the next few months?
Well, speaking of steampunk, October 1st weekend, I will be at the Gaslight Steampunk Expo, where you can not only see cosplayers, they've got panels and demonstrations and workshops. During that weekend, I'll also be at the Deaf Unity Expo. And then the next weekend is one of my 5K walks for the end to Alzheimer's. And then on the 12th, I will be at the Make-A-Wish 5K. And then my favorite one of the year, Father Joe's Turkey Trot in Balboa Park, where we actually have 20,000 people walking. Then I will be attending in December the LA Comic-Con. But get ready, because come next year at Star Wars Celebration London, I'm coming over to be a reporter for the BBC. And that'll be a thrill to see anybody. So if you're watching this show and you're going to be at Star Wars Celebration London, please message me and let me know that you will be there so I can interview you.
Thank you, Dude Vader. We'll be wrapping up this episode with more scenes from the Big River Steampunk Festival, all set to the music of the Ragged Blade Band. But first, if you like what you see here, please consider supporting us on Patreon. You can make a monthly pledge of $1 or more, or you can make a one-time contribution to our PayPal chip jar. All contributions are appreciated. Now, stay tuned for the Ragged Blade Band, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.